Hello everyone, this is Ava. Welcome to Soul GPS. If this is your first time here, thank you for visiting, and I'd love for you to hit the subscribe button so that you get to receive regular content from me. Today we're talking about relationships as usual, recovery from toxic relationships, and how to grow and develop yourself so that you can become the person you've always wanted to be, and somebody who gets to create the life on your terms and the life of your dreams, which requires a lot of energy and effort. Therefore, you need all the tools in order to create that. And so today, actually, the topic of our talk is exactly that. I want to give you some tools, some direction in which you may want to start moving towards as you are recovering from a toxic relationship. And before I get into the 10 traits of someone with a high self-regard, I want to preface it by saying that as you're coming out from a relationship that is highly toxic, manipulative, especially if you've been with a covert narcissist, someone who masquerades as somebody who's very much concerned with the well-being of humanity, and it's just been so unrecognized for what they do, and has a way to evoking guilt and shame and fear in you, then you know how incredibly mind scrambling that relationship is. And so as you come out and you're dealing with the first sort of repercussions of what that relationship represented, and you get into the healing, you will feel very likely incredibly hyper aware, hypersensitive to your environment. It may appear as if everybody on the outside is a narcissist. Because again, your body is in a hyper alert state, and it does not want you to repeat what just happened to you. So again, you're very much in a highly protective zone, and you may be much more prone in the beginning to hibernate, to isolate, to maybe you notice that your world really shrinks to just a very small number of people, if any. You may feel very alone. So just want you to know that is absolutely normal, and to go through that stage. But there will come a time, after maybe a year, maybe a little bit sooner, maybe a little bit later, where you will begin to notice a lot of nuances in people's personalities, where you may not be able to tell, is this person narcissistic or not? We want to jump into conclusions and sort of pigeonhole people, and because it allows us to evaluate them quickly and then know what to do as a result. And I think most of us have done it, and many of us do it unconsciously to one degree or another. But what happens later on is it becomes very interesting, because there is this category of people who may be next to somebody who is severely codependent, which means that they enable or support people who are abusive, people who are addicted, people who are irresponsible, next to someone like that who has virtually no boundaries, who has given all of themselves to another person, and has to the degree where they have lost their identity. Next to that person, somebody who has high self-regard may appear narcissistic, but they're not. It's a relative comparison depending on where you are in your stage of development. So I wanted this video to actually be kind of optimistic and make you sort of give you a sense of direction, so this is what a person with boundaries and healthy self-esteem looks like. This is kind of what how they come across. And what's really important here that I want to emphasize is that when you're with that kind of person that I'm about to describe, you're not supposed to feel less than. You're not supposed to feel exploited. It's not somebody who's incredibly grandiose and it's always like, oh, look at me and look at who I am and blah, 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 or is fixated on fantasies of tremendous success and power, and looks at everybody like they're subservient to them, right? Or somebody who constantly needs attention and admiration from other people, or they're just, they feel like it's their drug. They need that to function. Or somebody who feels so entitled that they demand obedience from other people. Or, and I'm kind of I'm looking down on my notes here. This is from the DSM DSM diagnostic manual for narcissistic personality disorder. This is kind of what I'm talking about right here. Somebody who has a tremendously strong sense of entitlement, where they exploit other people to achieve their personal gain. So they trample over other people. They disrespect them. They have no ability to empathize with other people. They may pretend like they do, but they don't really care. All they care about is themselves. So as I'm reading through these 10 traits of somebody with high self-regard, I'm not talking about what I just read, even though just notice that there may be a little bit of this blurriness in some places, but it's really all about the intent, right? It's does it come from a place of, I want to exploit you, I want to use you as an object to further my own gain and self-interest? Or is it because I have a very strong sense of self and I know what I want, and I'm not going to compromise, and I'm not going to play any games and let other people manipulate me? So I know this is a long preamble, so let's get into it. Number 1, a person with a healthy self-regard knows what they want and they ask for it. So that is one of the, I would say, key lessons for people who are very strong empaths, and especially if you're on the codependent side, because what people like that do, and this was me in my past life, not so distant from now, but this is what I used to do. I had this, and it was amazing when I realized this, I had this almost like a hidden agreement with myself, with other people. But I wouldn't talk about it. This was just something that I assumed, which is that if I give of myself, if I give it everybody my all, and they will give me back. They will give back to me. They will reciprocate. Which of course they didn't, because nobody, number 1, can't read my mind. And number 2, by being like that for years, I have attracted to myself the people who very much pretended in the beginning that they were giving, that they were the partner that I wished they were, but then very quickly played the bait and switch game where they got me hooked on their sweetness and the fantasy of this relationship, and then they turned around and became very different. And so this kind of an attitude, this kind of stance definitely attracts people who are toxic. They fly right under our radar. So knowing what I want and being able to ask for it has been one of the greatest, truly most potent lessons for me in my journey. And that's why I put it as number 1, is because you need to do that. Otherwise, when you think, if you believe that just by being yourself and being a good person, other people will be good back to you, it's not going to happen. You got to be able to know who you are, what you want, what you need from a relationship. Write it down in your journal. Spend time on this. It's crucial. And then you need to learn to ask for it, which can be very difficult for us because, and I get this, we have to overcome it, but we have shame standing in a way, how dare I ask for what I want? I've been demeaned for so long by my parents, by my sisters and brothers, by my boyfriends, husbands, wives, whatever. I've been just there's no room for me. I've always been here for other people. Nobody's ever been here for me. So we're going to need to learn this. This is difficult. That's why you need therapy. That's why we need coaching. That's why we need these books. We need all these materials so we can learn to do that. But first and foremost, it takes spending time with yourself and really diving in and understanding who you are and what you're made of. Number 2, these people are argumentative and disagreeable. So there's no shame in conflict. Conflict is necessary because, the best solution has to win. That's how we evolve. That's how we get better as society, as humankind, ideally. But hiding yourself and not speaking out is you're robbing the world of your gifts. And so we need to learn to disagree. And that's one of the characteristics of an empath is extreme hyper agreeability. We want to nod and smile. We want to make everybody feel good. We want to elevate the atmosphere in the room. But by doing that, we are compromising ourselves severely. And the more we do it, the more difficult it will be for us to stand up for our truth. So the sooner we start to take steps in the other direction and learn to say to people, well, I actually think something else about this. I disagree with your opinion. And do it in a respectful, constructive manner. The better you'll feel about yourself, and your identity and your character will begin to form. And it's a beautiful experience. These are people who are intelligent, which means that you're able to take the time to research an argument, to dive into a topic, read a book, take some notes, think about stuff, and then present it in a way that comes across in the most intended form. And you want to bring those skills into a relationship, because this is how you negotiate. This is how you tell your partner what you want. And of course, a narcissist and, somebody who's very self-absorbed is not going to want that. And so you'll know fairly quickly that this is not somebody you want to spend the rest of your life with. So it becomes a great filtration system. Number 4, self-esteem. These people have high self-esteem, well-developed self-esteem. And self-esteem is not other esteem. That's one way to kind of understand, like, what is self-esteem. It's not other esteem, meaning that you esteem yourself. You only need your own regard, your own positive opinion of yourself to feel good. You do not wait for other people to approve of you, because this extreme need for self-approval is what gets us into trouble, is what gets us into those toxic relationships, because it's the wound, it's the gaping hole in our soul. And somebody comes in and gives you that approval, and you drink it up, and you're like, oh, it feels so good. And now you're willing to give everything to this person just to get a drop of that. And that's very dangerous. These people... Oh, one more thing about self-esteem that's awesome is that it's portable, okay? Meaning that no matter where you are and who you're with, your state is not dependent on how others perceive you. It's an amazing skill to work on. Number 5 is these people have the ability to put themselves first. So I'm not talking about me, selfish, although there is a degree of selfishness here that's healthy. It's just like with too much fire, too much water, too much this. It's like it's extreme, right? It's toxic, it's dangerous. You get floods and you get burns. Whereas if you have just enough, it's great and it creates life. So it's the same with selfishness. Is you need a healthy dose so you are able to put yourself first. And this is about, like taking good care of yourself. Taking good care of yourself so you can serve and help other people. Because it's all about, the human experience is about community. It's about forming relationships. Relationships is what ultimately determines our levels of fulfillment and joy in life. But those relationships have their root in the first relationship that we have with ourselves. So if we can take care of ourselves, if we can, nourish ourselves and give ourselves what we need and take the rest, take the break that we need for the workaholics out there, then we're able to perform so much better as a result. So ability to put yourself first, the healthy matter. And number 6, very closely related, concerned with your well-being, health, and appearance. Nothing wrong with that at all, saying, sorry, but I can't do X, Y, and Z because I'm going to the gym or I have a yoga class. You gotta know what makes you balanced and invest your time in that. It's your precious time. Look at it this way. The time that you would be spending in a toxic relationship when somebody's taking advantage of you and treating you very poorly, you could be spending, working out or learning yoga or learning capoeira or learning something really, really nourishing for yourself so that you then feel balanced and rooted in yourself and you're able to serve humanity and serve your loved ones from a really good, secure, fulfilled place. Number 7 is focused on personal success, purpose, and passions. This is the sweetness of life, right? It feels so good when you get traction on a project. It feels so good when you're handsomely rewarded by the work that you do. It feels so good when you feel healthy and that the hours in the gym are paying off and you're starting to notice great improvement in the way you feel and then in the way you look. And it doesn't mean that you're a narcissist if you're taking good care of how you look and how you present yourself. There's a respect that comes with it, right? If you show up at a certain function and you look well, dressed for it. Number 7, and it makes you feel good about yourself too. So number 8 is boundaries. And boundaries really ties with everything that I had already said, and especially with knowing what you want and what you need, because that helps you define who you are versus what someone else is. And of course, the person that you'll be interacting with is not going to be identical to you. That's what the narcissist wants you to believe, is that they're your twin flame, soul, whatever, which is a complete fabrication and illusion. A true soulmate, if such thing exists, I'm a skeptic, but it's, somebody who makes you grow and supports you, but doesn't do it in a toxic way where they exploit you, for goodness sakes. So, So boundaries, right? So you want to know, like, the people are going to be different than you. Ideally, that's what makes for variety in life, and makes this life so interesting. So you're going to need to learn to negotiate, because there'll be certain things they may want you to do with them that you may not want to do, and so you need to know that. You need to be in tune with who you are, and be able to say no to that and do it in a nice and polite way. Or if somebody's exploiting you, then it's a hell no, and you go the other direction. And number 9 is low tolerance for pettiness, games, and manipulation. So people with high self-regard, they can tell when somebody's trying to take advantage of them. And I think that really comes from having practiced all the things that I have mentioned, creates a sense of peace in themselves. And so when somebody else enters their domain and it sort of feels off, it feels like they're pushing their boundary, they're playing a game with them. They say something, but they do something else. Like, that's one way to, spot someone who's toxic, really. Then they will have no room for that. Then they will leave that relationship or let it dissipate, and they will move on to do other things. And then finally, exhibiting pride. And, come on, if you've done something really great, you're proud of, if you have some sort of an achievement, if you're great at something, be proud of it and carry it well, because, it's a form of, it's a part of your identity. It's a form of it feeds your confidence, it feeds your self-esteem, and it's how the world sees you. And contrast it to, what the narcissist or toxic person does, which is when it's all a game, it's all a fabrication, it's all a pretend, they're going to boast so much and color things, and they're going to add so much more to reality to make it seem that much more inflated. It's like the peacock showing off all their feathers, right? But when you're really proud for something you have done, especially if it was in service of something really great, truly great, then that has a very different quality. It has a quiet quality. But people who are discerning, people who are perceptive will notice that, and it will be very attractive to them. So I hope this video was helpful to you. I really wanted to kind of sort of step away from this sort of, talking about narcissists and toxicity, even though it is something obviously that needs to be explored and talked about. And I wanted to kind of, give it a bit of a different spin so that you can learn to cultivate some of these qualities in yourself. So, all right, I'm going to leave it at that for now. Invite you to write any comments, questions below, and I will see you in the next video. Take good care. Bye-bye.